He was a stern-looking military man. He was respected by many and feared by others. He was the father of Nigeria's war against indiscipline. He served as Deputy Head of State to Major General Muhammadu Buhari during Buhari's tenure as Military Head of State of Nigeria. His name, Tunde Idiagbon. In this edition of Back in History, we present his life and times. Welcome to this edition of Back in History. Tunde Idiagbon was born on 14 September 1943. He was born in Ilorin in present-day Kwara State of Nigeria. His father was Hassan Dogo. His father was of Fulani ancestry. His mother was Aishatu Iyabeji Hassan Idiagbon. His mother was of the Yoruba ancestry. At birth, the child was named Babatunde Abdul-Baki Idiagbon. He grew up to be known popularly as Tunde Idiagbon. When he came of age for the journey into the world of formal education, the young Tunde was enrolled at the United Primary School in Ilorin, Kwara State, where he studied from 1950 to 1952. He moved from there to another primary school, this time Okesuna Senior Primary School, also in Ilorin, from 1953 to 1957. On completion of his primary education, Tunde proceeded to secondary school. He attended the Nigerian Military School, Zaria. He was here from 1958 to 1962. This is where Tunde Idiagbon settled in his mind to make a career in the military. In December 1962, when he graduated from secondary school, he enrolled in the Nigerian Military Training College, NMTC, which was the equivalent of today's Nigerian Defense Academy. At that time, Nigerian citizens who enrolled in the NMTC were in the course of their studies sent abroad to continue their training till they were commissioned. This is how Tunde Idiagbon was sent to Pakistan to continue his military training at the Pakistan Military Academy, Abbottabad, Pakistan, where he studied economics. He was in the Pakistani military school from 1962 to 1965. On completion of his training in Pakistan, he was awarded a bachelor's degree in economics. He then returned to Nigeria, and on arrival, he was commissioned to the rank of second lieutenant. That was in 1965. He was immediately deployed to a number of military formations from then on. He first served as company commander of the 4th Battalion from August 1965 to February 1966. From 1966 to 1967, he also served as an intelligence officer, 4th Battalion, and General Staff Officer, 3rd Intelligence, 1st Sector. He was promoted to the rank of lieutenant in 1966. In June 1967, Nigeria fought a bitter civil war with the now defunct Republic of Biafra. Tunde was deployed to fight at the war front. He was made commanding officer 20 Battalion from October 1967 to February 1968. In 1968, he was promoted to the rank of captain. He was the commanding officer 125 Battalion from 1968 to 1970, one of the most dreaded fighting units during the Nigeria-Biafra War. In 1970, Tunde was promoted to the rank of Major. He was made Brigade Major and Deputy Commander 33 Brigade from March 1970 to March 1971, and the Commander 29 Brigade from March 1971 to December 1972. In January 1973, he also served as the General Staff Officer Grade 1 and later Principal Staff Officer PSO, Supreme Military Headquarters. He was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel in 1974. He was made Brigade Commander 31 and 15 Brigades from August 1975 to August 1978. In 1976, Idiagbon proceeded to the Command and Staff College in Quetta, Pakistan, for further military training. In July 1978, he was promoted to the rank of Colonel. He was appointed as the Director of Manpower, Manning and Planning, Army Headquarters in October 1979. At that time, the Army Headquarters was in Lagos. In May 1980, he was promoted to the rank of Brigadier General. In 1981, he attended the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, Jos Plateau State, Nigeria. And in 1982, he attended the International Defense Management Course, Naval Postgraduate School, United States of America. He served as military secretary of the Nigerian Army from 1981 to 1983. Tunde Idiagbon had a flourishing military career and gained promotions as and when due. General Murtala Muhammad became the military head of state of Nigeria in 1975, following a coup d'etat that removed General Gowon from office. General Murtala Muhammad was assassinated barely 6 months later, and his deputy, General Olusegun Obasanjo, became the new head of state of Nigeria. In August 1978, Tunde Idiagbon was appointed by Obasanjo as military governor of Borno State in northern Nigeria. Idiagbon served in this capacity till October 1979. Power was eventually handed over to a civilian administration headed by Alhaji Shehu Shagari as president. In December 1983, Major General Muhammadu Buhari took over the reins of power in Nigeria through another military coup that removed President Shagari from office. He appointed Tunde Idiagbon as the Chief of Staff, Supreme Military Headquarters, and by military convention, Idiagbon was the second in command or deputy head of state to Buhari. Idiagbon soon became the face of the regime and was involved in many activities that kept him constantly on the spotlight. His name was on the lips of many citizens, and newspaper houses published his photographs almost on a daily basis with news items about one activity or the other. He soon became dreaded by many, including military personnel. He was a workaholic and added so much value to Buhari's administration. He controlled all visible instruments of national, political, governmental, and administrative powers. Idiagbon was responsible for introducing, announcing, and implementing many of the government's major policies, one of which was the notorious war against indiscipline. War against indiscipline was meant to change the attitudinal orientation of Nigerian citizens. The 5 phases of the war against indiscipline which Idiagbon announced and implemented were: Phase 1, queuing in public places, launched on 20th March 1984. Phase 2, work ethics, launched on 1st May 1984. Phase 3, nationalism and patriotism, launched on 21st August 1984. Phase 4, anti-corruption and economic sabotage, launched on 14th May 1985. Phase 5, environmental sanitation, launched on 29th July 1985. The war against indiscipline was implemented throughout Nigeria, and citizens were seen comporting themselves in public places for fear of military sanctions. There was decorum in the country, but the programs were also criticized in several quarters as being draconian and as reducing adults to children in the name of discipline. Idiagbon went on with his programs nonetheless, and the head of state Muhammadu Buhari gave him the freedom to operate without restrictions and hindrances, and also gave him the necessary support. In August 1984, Idiagbon announced the introduction of a new currency for Nigeria. He was indeed the face of the administration. He said that the new currency would keep the same name, but the colors of bills would be different. He also announced the limits to currency exchange for corporations and individuals. The individual limit was $7,000. He said any corporation or individual exchanging in excess of the limit had to explain where the money came from and needed clearance from government. He stated that the major cause of Nigeria's economic problems was the deliberate sabotage of the Nigerian currency through large-scale illegal trafficking of the currency. He was thus poised to bring an end to it. In 1984, Idiagbon implemented the military government's import substitution industrialization policy based on the use of local materials. Importation was tightened. The aim was to ensure the growth of local industries through the policy. Recall that though trained as a military man, Idiagbon held a degree in economics from the military academy in Pakistan, and Idiagbon was, perhaps, employing his knowledge of economics with a view to addressing the economic challenges of Nigeria. But the drastic tightening of the economy did not assist the country. If anything, he created more hardship for the country. From January 1984 to August 1985, Idiagbon took control of all foreign policy matters that involved security. He was in control of the border closure, expulsion of illegal immigrants, and was also in charge of the damage control after the Umaru Dikko affair in Britain. He also participated in diplomatic activities. He was the foreign policy director of the regime. He traveled widely and met global dignitaries on behalf of Nigeria. Idiagbon was everywhere, at home and abroad. He was almost seen by some as the head of state of the country. Months into the administration, the Buhari-Idiagbon regime began to receive severe criticism from several quarters. Life was hard and the cost of living was almost unaffordable. There was the scarcity of basic items in the market as a result of the hardline policies of the government. Most civilians were not happy with the regime, so also were most soldiers. The soldiers then planned a coup to remove the regime from power. But at every point they set out to execute the coup, the plan was suspended for fear of Idiagbon. An arrest by Idiagbon on charges of coup planning was itself a death sentence. The soldiers then decided to wait for the best possible opportunity to strike. The soldiers implemented their plan on 27th August 1985. On this date, Idiagbon was in faraway Saudi Arabia, where he went for the Lesser Hajj. For the soldiers, this was the best time to sack the regime. Idiagbon was in faraway Saudi Arabia when the news got to him that his government at home had been toppled by a group of soldiers led by Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, Sani Abacha, Joshua Dogon Yaro, David Mark, and others. Idiagbon was angry. He wanted to quickly return to Nigeria, but was advised by friends and by the King of Saudi not to do so. He then stayed back in Saudi Arabia and later returned to Nigeria. At this time, their government was completely sacked and a new regime had taken over the reins of power. On arrival in Nigeria, Idiagbon was placed under house arrest by the military. He was there for 3 years. Muhammadu Buhari had already been placed under house arrest in Benin City. After his release from house arrest, Idiagbon retired to his hometown in Ilorin and lived there with his family till his death. Idiagbon was married in March 1970 to Biodun Idiagbon Ni Gamra, and together they had 2 sons and 3 daughters, namely Adekunle, Junior, Ronke, Mope, and Bola. On 24th March 1999, Idiagbon died in Ilorin, Kwara State. He was committed to Mother Earth in accordance with the funeral rites of the Islamic faith. This marked the end of the earthly life and times of Major General Tunde Idiagbon, most popularly known as Tunde Idiagbon. While in the military, he won several awards including Defense Service Medal DSM, Forces Service Star FSS, General Service Medal GSM, and National Service Medal NSM. His name shall remain in the military books for many years to come. Thanks for watching this edition of Back in History, and do remember to subscribe to this channel or follow the page for regular notification on every new video. I remain your host and friend, Ekemi Udim, wishing you the best of time as you continue to accompany me as we walk through the corridors of history to discover and preserve in modern forms the history of Africa.